This is James Helder for IFL-TV in association with Matt Jim Marbella, aka the boss.
No, you the boss.
Me the boss?
Not me the boss, you the boss.
I'll take that.
You the boss.
I'll take that all
Got
day
the
long.
real deal today.
I'll take that all day long.
No more soppy Coogan Cassius.
Big statement. You know you love
That's
him.
a lovely tracksuit you got on.
Go
For
on.
those who can't see,
Go on.
Emporio Armani, courtesy of Scott's, I believe.
Indeed, indeed.
It does. Very nice. Shame they didn't have any in your size, but other than that, looks blinding.
Listen, I've taken
And you got the side sweep going on.
Side sweep.
You've got the side sweep and the cheeky
copying my
tracksuit.
hair,
You've been
haven't
spending too much time in Essex or something. What's going on?
It's the Marbella look, isn't it? The Marbella look.
Oh yeah, you just come back. You have a nice holiday?
Got back 10 o'clock last night.
Lovely. Thanks for coming up.
It was good, thank you for having me. Catching your suntan up, I do believe.
All real.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Firstly and foremost, we're here in Leeds today at the museum for the press conference of the Leeds show. Josh Warrington in action, also with a great supporting cast, the likes of Ricky Burns, making his comeback fight on the comeback trail. Brian Rose again on the comeback trail. Interesting card. Interesting card.
Yeah, I mean the big coup was to secure this European title shot for Josh Warrington. It's been in the works now for probably about a week. Got the news on Monday. Really pleased, you know, obviously it's a great rise to the top for Josh Warrington. He won the Commonwealth title in November of last year, went to Samir Mamoun's backyard and beat him. Then he fought Rendell Munro for that Commonwealth title in April. 3.5 weeks later, he boxed Martin Lindsay for the vacant British title. And now, in October, he gets the chance to add the European title.
How dangerous is David DeGALE as an opponent?
He's experienced, you know, say he's dangerous, but I'd say Josh is overly dangerous yet as a fighter. He's more of a technician, so I think it's one that could go the distance. I think on paper it looks like a 50-50, and I think DeGALE's lot certainly fancy their chances. But I'm just so pleased, you know, that he gets a chance to fight for a big title like this in front of his home crowd, because there is not, and you know, people may say that I'm exaggerating here. I promise you, for personal ticket sales, and there's two kinds of ticket sales. All fighters sell tickets personally, and then obviously you've got the box office sales. But for personal ticket sales, there is no one in the country that can even touch Josh Warrington. He's taken 1,500 tickets already, which he's just told me have gone. We went on sale today. He'll do over 2,000 personally for this show. Now, can't remember if you were in Leeds for the last show. I think you were.
I was.
But the atmosphere on a Wednesday night, we only had probably 3,500 in the arena. It was mental. For this one, we should have 7,000 or 8,000.
You had 3 weeks to build the last
Exactly.
show. You've got, what, 8, 9 weeks?
Yeah, and you know, the atmosphere for this one is going to be off the chain. So, great, you know, fight for Josh Warrington. Obviously, a lot of big fights on the bill, important fights for other people. Ricky Burns returning, I confirmed the move to £140. He's going to be campaigning at light welterweight.
Okay.
He'll be in a 10-rounder on the bill as well. Callum Smith, who, you know, I think everyone's seen now, one of the top prospects in world boxing, defending his WBC international title. Brian Rose returning to action. Obviously, Tyrone Nurse is going to be challenging for the vacant Commonwealth title as well. A couple of other Scots on the bill as well. David Brophy and Stephen Simmons coming down, because there'll be a lot of Scottish fans there.
Okay.
And I'm excited. You know, it's a great bill, and Leeds now is becoming a regular fixture for us. We dipped our toe in the water in May, and you know, I'm pleased because I think it's a great opportunity for Josh to win this vacant title.
How much do you credit Steve Woods and his business acumen, if you like, in knowing when to step his fighters up to the TV kind of shows? Because he could have been, what's the word I'm looking for? He could have kept his fighters to himself and tried to build and build and build, couldn't he?
Yeah, listen, you've got to give massive credit to Steve Wood, because listen, he's a very, very good manager, been around the game a long time, cares for his fighters a lot. But really, you know, what he's done with Josh Warrington is he's progressed him, he's made him learn the tough way. You know, one of the things as a promoter, James, is when you get these fighters that have come up the tough way, like the Josh Warringtons and like the Lee Selby's, you don't really get the prima donnas. Do you know what I mean? These are people that appreciate what you're giving them.
100%.
Steve Wood has built Josh Warrington, and now we've taken over with Steve and built him again. Now all of a sudden he's on big money, he's selling huge tickets. He's picked up, hopefully, come October the 4th, 3 big titles in less than a year. You know, and obviously you've got Lee Selby now, who, you know, Josh is following suit with him. You know, he picked up Lee's Commonwealth title, he picked up Lee's British title, he's going to pick up Lee's European title, and Lee will fight on October the 11th against Joel Brunker in an IBF final eliminator, which is a fantastic fight, and then he'll get the shot at Gradovich for the world title, and I believe he'll beat him. So, you know, then all of a sudden you're looking at Selby against Warrington for the world title. It's another big domestic fight that can happen. So, you know, it's a great division for him, and you know, things are bubbling nicely.
Josh signing a 5-fight deal with yourself and Matchroom. Big signing on fee?
No, he's on great money, because he knows his value because of the tickets he's selling. Like anyone, you know, if he's selling 2,000 tickets personally and we're having 7,000 or 8,000 in the arena, you know, you're going to be demanding big purses because that's what happens. You know, you really get paid, just like any form of life, isn't it? You get paid what you're worth. You know, and sometimes you can be a great fighter, but you don't bring a lot to the table in terms of ticket sales or ratings. And sometimes the two work in hand, because when you've got a packed arena and the atmosphere is great, people want to watch and people are excited to watch. So it's very important for young fighters to build a fan base for themselves in their city and within their market. And that's where I feel in America, fighters and promoters let themselves down, because that doesn't seem to happen. Every time I go to an event, you know, I was at one in Carson recently with yourself. How many fighters did you see there that just didn't have a fan base? I mean, you don't see 100, 200 people flying or travelling up from Mexico or flying from New York, and you know, so we've got a great thing going in British boxing where fans really get behind their fighters, and Josh Warrington is the perfect example of that.
How long do you reckon before a domestic super fight could take place between Josh Warrington and Lee Selby?
Well, like I said, Josh fights on October the 4th, Lee fights on October the 11th. If Lee can beat Joel Brunker, which is a really, really tough fight, I think he's 27-0, 28-0, he becomes a mandatory for Gradovich. That's a world title fight he can win. He'll get that shot probably early 2015, and when he wins that world title, Josh Warrington's the obvious defence. It's a big domestic fight, and you know, Josh has been following him, and listen, we thank Lee because you know he's given Josh the opportunity as well, and hopefully when he wins that world title, he'll give Josh an opportunity to challenge him for the world title.
Just moving away from this show now, I'd like to talk a little bit about Carl Froch. Have we any movement potentially on what's going on with his next bout?
Well, the only movement with Carl at the moment is in his lycra and his leotard on Tumble on a Saturday night. I think he's starting to get the hump with that a little bit because he's talking about fighting again. He won't fight till 2015. I think we're looking at February realistically.
Is it Vegas?
I don't think so. I mean, listen, we've tried so hard with the Chavez fight. I don't know what the problem is. You know, it seems like we're wasting our time on that one. I don't even think he wants to fight. I think, you know, the WBC are trying to put him forward to fight DeGALE for that title. I think he's said that he's not interested in that one either. So, who knows? You know, and sometimes if you haven't got the desire to fight, you can't base your career and wait around, especially when you're Carl Froch's age and at Carl Froch's stage in his career, waiting and hoping that someone will take the fight. You know, people will say, oh, why don't you make the Chavez fight? We're doing everything we can, but there comes a point where you have to move on. You know, I was speaking to Tom Loeffler, GGG's manager, last night, and he said the same thing. We wanted the Chavez fight. We agreed all the terms. And then it just went quiet. And that's what happened with us as well. We agreed the terms in principle for Froch against Chavez, and now it's slowed down. So we can't wait and wait and wait and wait. We've got to get rolling, and I want to get Carl Froch's fight done by the end of September.
Where does this leave James DeGALE? Is he potentially still in the mix to fight Carl Froch? Can this fight go ahead?
James DeGale's in a great position. He's the mandatory challenger for Carl Froch. I think it's likely that he'll have a big profile fight at the end of November or December the 6th on KELL BROOK's card. And then he's mandatory for Carl Froch. Carl's got to fight him by the end of February, or he'll have to vacate the title. So James in a great spot. All he's got to do is stay busy, keep raising his profile, keep calling Carl Froch's name, and Froch has either got to vacate or fight him. So, you know, he's in a good position. That's not going anywhere. Once you become the mandatory, that's there to stay. Different divisions take longer than others, but the IBF is one that is very, very stringent on a mandatory shot. So he's in a good position, James DeGALE, and I think we'll be announcing his next fight shortly.
Have you been watching Celebrity Big Brother?
I have.
What thoughts on it?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I've watched a few of them before, but obviously with Frank, Kelly and Audley, it just gives you that excuse to watch it again. But it's mad. I mean, the mix of people in it are just hilarious. I mean, that Gary Bushy or whatever, he's an absolute psychopath. Did you watch it last night? Or no?
No, I missed it.
Not last night, the night before.
No,
when Bushy was talking about, he said, they said, oh, are you married to your partner? He said, no, we're engaged, but I've been with her for 46 lifetimes. And that dancer went, sorry, what do you mean? He went, well, actually, I fought in the Battle of something in 1840 and died in that battle. And I was sort of reincarnated in 1940. I mean, he's absolutely away with the fairies. But he's great, and obviously you got Kelly or Frank, and then you got Audley piping up to the dancer who didn't back down, which was a bit worrying.
Strange.
Doesn't bode well for big Audley. But, you know, I think it's mad TV, isn't it? It's the world we live in at the moment. Reality TV seems to have taken over. And unfortunately, role models now aren't people who probably should be role models, but role models now are people in reality TV shows, which isn't great news for the future of the country. But there you go.
What would your thoughts be if Kelly or Frank, like he or she will probably do, promotes a UK boxing show as a woman?
Well, I suppose, I mean, everyone's got mixed opinions, haven't they? Is it Frank forging a new career or life for himself with this mad idea to do this? If it is, fair play, it's genius. Or is it genuine? I don't know.
Should we dress Coogan up?
Yeah, well, listen. No, but at least Frank's only like 5'4", 5'5". Coogan's about 6'6". I mean, God, he'll look shocking. But he's got the moves, so it shouldn't be a problem. But, you know, I don't know. It's all madness, isn't it? But listen, like I said, when I first found out about it, I done an interview with Coogan, and I said, if it is genuine, and that's how he's got to find happiness, then listen, you've got to do what you've got to do, haven't you?
Live and
if it's
live.
not, then it's a mad scam, and maybe good luck to him as well. Do you know what I mean? He's picked up what, 500 or 600 bags out of it so far, so
not a bad couple of weeks' work.
I'm not sure any amount of money could let me stick a bra on.
$2 mil?
All right, now we're talking.
You got to live like it for a year.
Depends on the bra. It's got to be the right bra. Sports bra, have to be a sports bra in my moves.
Bad times. I can't get that vision out my retina.
Thanks, mate. That'll come in handy for you later.
Any truth in Audley Harrison being a potential opponent for Anthony Joshua?
Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, other than Coogan saying it, the other day.
If he's pro for what? If he wins Big Brother and his profile's
because
quite
he's
high?
got what's Anthony Joshua got to. I mean, Audley was knocked out in one round by David Price.
Yeah.
He was knocked out in one round by Deontay Wilder. So there's no real value for Anthony fighting him. And you know, we've just announced Anthony's opponent for September the 13th, which is Konstantin Eric, which is a good step up for him.
Wouldn't you say Harrison would be kind of a level above them kind
About
of
the
guys?
same.
Yeah.
About the same. But I just don't see the value in that. I mean, listen, commercially I think it sells, but we don't need gimmicks with Anthony. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm not disrespecting Audley saying he's a gimmick, but he brings a mad circus to town. I'm not sure we really need that for Anthony trying to progress his career sensibly. And I don't know, maybe, never say never. But October the 11th, Anthony will be in his first title fight at the O2. We'll announce that on Friday, and that's a big fight.
Okay.
So he's getting there. You know, he had great sparring with Klitschko in Austria.
I saw that on the Instagram.
Yeah, so you know, he's ready and he's looking great. Got some good sparring flying in for him this Friday and Monday and all the next week. So he's in a great spot. A lot of pressure on him. I mean, you might have seen the documentary on him on Sky, and not many people get a documentary made after 7 fights. But you know, he's an Olympic champ. There's a lot of weight on his shoulders. But I don't think he's going to let
it. He's very charismatic.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's a very deep thinker. Do you know what I mean? I mean, and I think that he's very sensible, very focused. But he's got that streak in him as well. You know, he's just not just a lovely guy. He's got that streak in him that every fighter needs. So I'm excited. And obviously September the 13th, and then October the 11th, and then December the 6th for the KELL BROOK card as well. We'll be out.
With the reflection, looking back at Carson now, how highly would you rank that night in your boxing achievements as a promoter so far?
Listen, I think probably four standout nights for me. 3 in terms of achievement within those fights is Carl Froch against Lucien Butte, Darren Barker against Daniel Gill, and KELL BROOK against Carson Jones. Definitely not. KELL BROOK against that name. People just don't stop mentioning him on Twitter. Carson Jones, winding me up that he should have his first defence against him, against Sean Porter in Carson, because that was a real sort of one of them moments to a lot of people. You know, and life isn't about that, but sometimes when you believe in someone and you feel someone's getting a rough ride from people, it's nice that you're proved right and your beliefs come true. Froch Groves at Wembley was a great night and a nice win for Carl, but a win that I felt that he would always win that fight. Do you know what I mean? KELL BROOK, Sean Porter, I felt he would win, but it's away territory. Gill against Barker, fantastic, and Froch against Butte was, you know, backs against the wall stuff and fighting for your career. So many fights mean so much, you know. But I think in terms of what that win can do for the future of KELL BROOK and the future of British boxing, is very, very important. You know, in terms of the other guys on the card, Callum Swift and Luke Campbell, it was all about the experience. You know, it's about flying to a new venue. It was about dealing with a commission. You know, wrapping the hands differently, fighting outdoors, training out there, adapting to the time difference, fighting in 100-degree heat. Because when they go back there, and they will go back there, either to challenge or to fight for or to defend a world title, they'll remember it. And KELL BROOK went to America when Froch fought Andre Ward, and I believe the experience that he gained out there played a part in his victory over Sean Porter. So it's all part of the learning process.
KELL's homecoming show in Sheffield. Any potential opponents in the mix you can talk to me about?
Same as last week, you know, when we talked about it, loads in the mix. I mean, I like Brandon Rios, I like Josecito Lopez, I like Juan Manuel Marquez, although I think that's unlikely for that show. I like Leonard Bundu. You know, there's loads of great fights, but one thing you can be guaranteed of, it'll be a genuine fight and it'll be a proper defence, because KELL BROOK's good enough, and you know the division is good enough and the division is hot enough, and there are so many options. Some divisions it's very difficult to find the right fight. Welterweight division, you've got no problems at all. So it looks like December the 6th, and it's going to be a huge card.
Amir Khan potentially in action before the end of the year, maybe next month and the month after, I'm led to believe.
December 6th.
December 6th,
same night, yeah.
Potentially a massive super fight. Do you think it can be done? The parties can come to
Yeah, and I think that fight might be done sooner rather than later. You know, I'm having good talks with our people at the moment, and I think that's a fight that can be made in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Is it a case of it's got to be made quickly, just in case circumstances change?
Fights will get made when they're made. Sometimes there's a window to make a fight, and I think we're certainly in that window at the moment.
Indeed.
But all the noises that I'm hearing want that fight. Obviously from Kell's side, but also from Amir's side as well. And why wouldn't you? You know, it's the fight that it's the biggest payday for Amir. And I think that even outside, even including the Floyd Mayweather fight, obviously if the Mayweather fight comes up for either fighter, you know, you have to consider your position because it's a huge opportunity. But I'm not sure whether Khan's going to get the Mayweather fight. And maybe Brook might get the Mayweather fight in 2015. But,
Do you think that's something Brook's been thinking about?
Sure. He's a world champion in the division, and Manny Pacquiao's one, Floyd Mayweather's the other, and KELL BROOK's the other. But I think, realistically, it's more like defence on December the 6th, May, Khan v Brook, and the winner fights Mayweather. And I think that's something that's very realistic.
Pacquiao-Algieri coming up as well.
Yeah, I'm not mad on that fight, you know, I mean...
What, you're not going out to China?
No, I left after 3 or 4 rounds of the Algieri-Provodnikov fight because Provodnikov was battering him. And I was following it on Twitter, and all of a sudden, he's turning it around. But I just can't see Algieri beating Pacquiao. You know, I just can't see it. So, and listen, maybe Pacquiao Mayweather will get made one day. I hope so. But have they missed the boat? You know, we talk about that window to make a fight. But maybe the window's just about to start.
Tony Bellew, Nathan Cleverly. Massive domestic show. It's been added to the KELL BROOK homecoming fight.
Potentially, yeah. I mean,
so it's not sealed yet.
No, I mean we looked at November 29th in Liverpool, but I think we've got an opportunity to do a huge show on December the 6th. You know, obviously.
Would that be pay-per-view?
Potentially, if the right fights were made. You know, and I think with Brook against a huge name opponent, Bellew against Cleverly, DeGALE in a high-profile fight, Joshua v Sprock is also added to that card. Potentially Scott Quigg in a world title fight as well. Then you're talking. But there's a lot of work to do yet. I mean. You know, Bellew Cleverly, we looked at Liverpool, and you know, I think there's an argument to say why should the fight be in Liverpool when Nathan's already boxed him in Liverpool as well. I think the opportunity to have that fight on neutral ground would appeal to Nathan for sure, but also I think Tony would understand that as well. But you know, I think as long as the money's right for both fighters, then they'll grab the opportunity with both hands. And you know, to add that fight to that bill would be fantastic, and that's what we're planning to do.
Carl Frampton in action against Kiko Martinez could again potentially lead the way to a massive super fight with Scott Quigg. We spoke about it till we're blue in the face. Do you think it can happen?
I hope so. Listen, you know, I speak occasionally to Jake McGuigan and the team there, and genuinely I want Carl Frampton to win. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think Scott Quigg is a fantastic fighter. I think it's an absolute cracking fight, and I believe they want it. Scott definitely wants it, and I think Carl wants it. It's just a case of egos aside, and maybe the egos don't come from the fighters. You know, maybe it's a case of we just sit down and we say, listen, let's just make the fight and let's make it happen, and let's not leave this room until it's made. And I'm sure we can get that fight made. It's a great fight, you know, and you know, I keep talking about 2 fights because, and the reason I talk about 2 fights is because it's such a great opportunity for both fighters to make so much money. It's the biggest fight for them in the division, and if we're going to do it in January or February or December, we do it in the MEN, Phones View Arena. It's got 21,000. Carl will bring 6,000 to 7,000 alone, and then we do it outdoors in Belfast in the summer. You know, and it's not, oh, well, you want 2 fights because you think Scott won't win. Rubbish. I want 2 fights because it's a great opportunity to make 2 big fights and a huge payday for both fighters twice. And, you know, I think it can be made, and I hope he can beat Martinez.
I think it's a case of leaving Anthony Lever and Jake McGuigan alone to sort out the finer details on that one.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe just put Quigg and Frampton in the room. Listen,
just let them sort it out.
The bottom line is, I'll do business with anyone. It doesn't, you know, I'm not someone that, you know, I'm not working with him, I don't know. If it makes sense for us and if it makes sense for our fighters, you know, then, and it makes sense for our broadcaster, perhaps most importantly, we'll get it done. I mean, you just saw us, you know, agree a deal to air George Groves on Sky Sports.
I did, yeah.
You know, working with Southland.
Groves
So
Abrisi.
it's not like we're not going to let anyone on Sky Sports. If it works for us, get all our fighters on the card. Obviously, Sky would want George back on the channel after the success of the Froch Groves card. Makes sense, let's do it.
Shrewd move by the Southlands as well.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, that was made possible because of our relationship with the Southlands. So it was a case of them coming to us and asking to put George on Sky, and us thinking, yeah, that would be great for our broadcaster and for the channel.
Yeah.
So we get it done. Everyone's sensible, no egos. Just get things done for the good of... And it's not... I can sit here and give it the Billy bollocks. It's all about the good of the fans. Of course it's important, but it's also about the good of our business and the good of our fighters. And if it makes sense for all of those people, fans, broadcasters, our business, our fighters, then we make it happen. But, you know, some people are just... You know, this business can make you really bitter. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you haven't got there yet. You're a little bit there. But it's one of those ones where everyone's trying to shaft you 24/7, and you can get really bitter. But it hasn't affected me yet because I'm still quite fresh. Maybe in 10 or 15 years' time, I'll be the most horrible, bitter man in boxing. Might not even be in boxing.
Might not even be a man.
True. No, I think you're safe on that one. But I think that, you know, that can affect you in time, and it sort of can cloud your decisions and cloud your opinions as well. You know, that bitterness. And I understand because, you know, it is a horrible game, and it is very, very frustrating. Losing fights, falling out on fights, and, you know, it's just non-stop dramas. But I enjoy it. I live for it. I love the buzz. But I'm guessing I'm still a puppy. You know.
Who's your 3 favourite fighters to work with at the moment?
The ones that are doing the best. Well, obviously, you say Froch, you know, and you know, it depends. You know, some fighters, you know, obviously Kell's been a long-term project. You know, the amount of times I've sat in Kell's front room with him and his dad, just trying to either take him out of the gutter for the disappointment of the Alexander.
Have you had him since he was about 18 fights in, haven't you?
Yeah, something like that. You know, I had him. He hadn't boxed in Sheffield, I think, since he was about 18, and we took him to Hillsborough Leisure Centre, then Ponsford, then Sheffield Arena for the Matthew Hatton. You know, we've done 9,000 tickets, so I've always believed in Kell and how good he was. Obviously, my relationship with Froch is great. My relationship with all the fighters is great. And listen, when you've got a stable as big as ours is, sometimes someone's not going to perform very well. They're not up there on the priority list, and they probably get the hump. But generally, we've got a good relationship with all our fighters. They're all active. They all get paid on time. And that's, you know, really all you can ask for from your promoter. Indeed. And to guide your career in the right direction. You know, obviously talk about securing home advantage and all this stuff. You know, it comes down to if you're good enough, you'll win anywhere. Certain fights, you should be obligated to get home advantage for. You know, and the amount of times we've got home advantage, but just because we got it, we don't send out a press release to say we're the best, we've got home advantage. I mean, look at Josh Warrington against David DeGALE. It's a home fight. It's a vacant title. Josh home advantage. Don't shout from the rooftop. If we don't deliver a fight like this for Josh Warrington at home, we're not doing a great job. The likes of Porter Brook and Andrade against Rose and Reece Broner, that's another kettle of fish. You know, but ultimately you do what the money tells you to do. And you do what the fighter ultimately requests you to do. I mean, you saw Hall against Caballero. You know, Dennis Hobson won the purse bids for that. Fantastic. Home advantage, and then they bin it off in Monte Carlo on a show. Yeah. Done that because it makes financial sense. No problem with doing that. Not all of a sudden, but you said it was home. You know, he would have sat down with the fighter, all agreed. You know, the money makes sense for them financially. You've got to do what you've got to do. But if Stuart Hall's good enough, he'll beat Caballero. Just like Kell Brook was good enough and he beat Sean Porter. So
boxing ring's a boxing ring.
It is. You can get home advantage. Wonderful. It's definitely an advantage, but ultimately, if you're good enough, you'll win anyway.
How's the numbers for the Fight Pass show doing? I've had a few words with Coogan here, and he's invited me on as a guest a few times.
Really?
Told him to piss off.
It's doing well. It's doing really well. I mean, you know, what you're going to get with Fight Pass is you're going to get, obviously, when we first launched, we had a huge peak in numbers, and then what's going to happen is when a stream show comes up, our first one is September the 12th, Dave Coldwell show, going to get another peak, and then when there's a big show where people want to make sure they get priority bookings, you're going to get another peak because everyone's going to want to join to make sure they get their ticket. So, you know, it's good, and I think any outlet for promoters or for boxing to have a new platform is a good thing.
Indeed.
You know, and sometimes it's difficult. I mean, you know, generally the big numbers come when there's a big fight. You know, and obviously, you know, you'll see decent numbers on Fight Pass, and some of our shows on Sky do huge numbers. The ones that haven't got the bigger names on don't. You know, and obviously you see, like with Box Nation, the Barb figures are out now. Now, if you look at their last 2 live events, well, Danny Garcia show and the Hernandez show, Barb figures are showing they had audiences of 2,000 and 3,000. So it is really difficult. But any platform with any exposure is good. So, you know, the big audiences come out for the big shows. And of course, as a promoter, you want to put the big shows on as much as possible.
Gives you a chance to feature some of your up-and-coming prospects, though, doesn't it? And give them a slice of the limelight rather than fighting on an undercard. They can potentially be headlining some of these.
Exactly, and also it gives us a chance to work with those promoters who I feel are developing quality fighters, like Steve Wood, you know, who brought through Josh Warrington, you know, like Steve Goodwin, who's got a lot of top fighters on his stable, like Dave Coldwell, who, you know, he's got a fight on that September the 12th card in Chad Gaynor and Amit Patterson, so it's a really, really good fight. So we want to work with all the promoters to make sure that, you know, when their fighters are ready, they can come up with us and box on Sky. And, you know, it's all about that conveyor belt, feeding the talent through, but giving them an opportunity as well, giving them the exposure. And of course, you're right, making sure that where we're full up, our fighters can still box on there, and it's just that big conveyor belt goes round and they hit the Sky show. So it's a really good model for us, and the numbers are really good. So everything's great.
All right, well, listen, then I appreciate you giving me a bit of time.
Thanks for coming.
Do you want to plug your Twitter before we go?
At Eddie Hearn, I'm getting there to 200,000 followers now.
I see that today.
I know, it's mad, it's mad. Some of the fighters say, why have you got more followers than me? I said, because I'm the source of the news, that's why.
That's right.
Kell Brook said he's got to go past me on. So if you haven't, I mean, I guess everyone watching this follows Kell Brook on Twitter, but at Special K Brook, give him a follow.
Do you want to list every one of your fighters?
Blimey, there's so many. We've got so many fighters, James.
At
Special K Brook, at Brian_Lion_Rose, at Tony Bellew, at Cole_Froch, at Callum Smith 23, I think. Oh, at Martin J Ward 1. At
you know you're going to get
your
one of them ring you.
Yeah, I know you didn't mention me, so I'll stop
me.
there. At Jay McDonald, at Rick Stakeo, at Lee Selby.
You ain't addicted to Twitter much.
I know, but listen, it's such a wonderful platform. I don't want to bore everyone in this interview, but where else? I've got 192,000 Twitter followers that I can hit in their hand with news.
It's great.
You know, and again, not like obviously lights of boxing news and wonderful for the sport, but you know, if that's got a readership of say 10,000.
Are you just claiming your Twitter to be more popular than boxing news? Am I hearing this right?
No, but it's more powerful. I'm talking about for communication to fans. I'm talking about marketing. I'm talking about advertising. I'll always support boxing news because it's a trade mag. And this isn't a pop at boxing news, by the way, but it's a bit like I Film London. You know, you're going to get 20,000 views for this interview. Well, I can get the news out to 192,000 followers like that, again and again and again. So what I'm actually trying to say is, why am I wasting my time doing this interview?
Oh, that's harsh. That's borderline. I have to get Coogan on the phone.
Coogan. What is Coogan? I mean, do you know what? I'm stuck in the car with Coogan. I'm so bored. Anyway, that song comes on, so I start just fucking around, just like I was having a funny half hour. He goes, let me film that. I go, no, Coog. Anyway, he films it. I watch it back, and he goes, let me put that up. I went, Coog, there is no way you're putting that up. Oh, go on, it'll be hilarious. People. I said, I look like a knob. He goes, I know, but like, it's just having a laugh. And actually, the response was really good.
It's great.
It's quite funny. People think that, like,
I reckon Coogan could talk you into doing anything.
But people think, like, some of the responses are like, God, he actually seems like a laugh, or wow, I didn't think he'd dance, or anything. Like, what do you think I'll do? Do you know what I mean? It's like a robot. So it went down all right. So roll on the next crazy video. His Instagram is quite funny. What's that one the other night with the afro?
I haven't
when
seen
he was,
it.
you not seen it?
No.
Singing a song. fucking mental.
I dropped my phone off a cliff in Spain.
He's doing the fight pass today, actually, isn't he?
I know, yeah, he's doing a bit with Barker
Darren
today.
Barker,
He looks quite
so
interesting.
good.
Quite interesting. All right, well, listen, Eddie, all jokes aside, thank you
How
for
long was that
your
one?
time. I don't know, I ain't got a timer. I'm going to say about
15 minutes?
18 minutes.
Was it? Good work, good work.
Thank you, Sterling. Work yourself. Keep doing what you're doing.
Cheers,
and,
mate.
We'll catch you again real soon.
See you soon.